had this brilliant idea that I would come here at the 4x4 Expo and I would do my year 3 costs. I've got my clipboard here. Oh my god, it's so windy! I don't think this is going to work. But in my 3rd year, I have covered 3,460. Oh my goodness. It is so insanely windy here. I don't think I can do it, so I'm going to pack this in and go home. This was a bad idea. Well, here we are. It is year 3 with the Toyota Land Cruiser 100 series. The Land Cruiser Amazon, as we call it here in the UK. If you thought this would finally be a cheap year, after the last 2 being very, very expensive, you would be dead wrong. Spoiler alert, I have now spent £36,000 since purchasing this car, including the cost of purchasing it, 36 grand, and it still isn't all fixed yet. There's loads more to do. Well, here's my roundup, same as before. I have done 3,466 miles because, yes, again, it has spent a lot of time in the shop getting fixed. It's roughly half the mileage that I did in my 2nd year with the car. I did about 8,000 miles last year, and this year it's less than half of that at about 3.5k. It now has 202,000 miles. It was £10,500 for me to purchase it just over 3 years ago. And it had full service history, it had no major issues, it had a little bit of rust bubbling on the front wheel arches like they all do, but nothing major that I was expecting to have to sort out. Alright, here is everything that I have spent in my 3rd year with my money pit, my financial mistake. Oh, and I'm going to get rained on here, but I'll persevere. Probably the worst thing is that my printout is going to get soaked. My first expense of the year is on undersealing the car. You won't know it to look at it now because it's covered in mud, but I'll put some stock footage in. But I spent £1,980 getting the car undersealed, and they did a pretty good job. Scraped back, and they did weld sealer and so on. This is just really muddy, so this isn't great footage. But they did screw some things up. They did drill some self-tappers into my car, so video about that to come. That was £1,980. Before I did the big undersealing job, there was some patch up that I did with dinitrile products just to keep the thing going before the main undersealing was done. That was £69. I also had to replace my hydraulic suspension globes. Tatamanki sphere, I had to do a full set of AHC spheres. That was £750 just for the parts. And of course the fluid to go along with it, that was another £120. There was a bit of front welding that was required when it went in for underseal. Just under the front wing here, you can see why, it gets absolutely sprayed. That's minging. I'll put a picture in. That was another £100 when it was in to get its undersealing done. I needed a front height sensor. That height sensor, it's there, it's minging. That was another £90 to replace that. Wheel bearings, I had to get some wheel bearings parts, that was £84. Diff oils, I had to service the diffs, so front diff and rear diff, I put the oil in myself, that was £70 worth. I bought on this side a set of fender liners because I had to bend these into shape to fit my 35, so I had another set of fender liners to bend in with the heat gun. That was £60. A universal joint for the prop shaft, £34, very common that these go. And some universal mud flaps, those are just Temu type 3mm rubberized mudguards, those are £25. And when I was in doing the differentials anyway, I put some new plugs in, that was £15 for some new magnetic plugs for the differential. And some grease, £8 worth of grease. That covers the underside of the car. Alright, engine stuff this year was this EGR block plate. That's a factory adapter that you can buy from Toyota. That was £132. I replaced the top and bottom radiator hoses for £35. I replaced this vacuum actuator. It's like a vacuum regulator valve. I actually got one from a Toyota Yaris, so it was £23 instead of, you know, the £400 that it is from Toyota. For the Land Cruiser, I just got a used one from a Toyota Yaris. They use them on a whole bunch of cars. It's just a Denso part number. You can buy them cheap on eBay. I did my air filter as part of the service, £15. Lots of rubber fuel hoses needed replaced up the top here when I was doing some diesel injector work. So £9 worth of rubber hose. Oh, and a tiny coupler. When I took the EGR valve off, I also took off the EGR cooler. Just see there at the end of my fingertip, there is a little hose barb coupler. So instead of running through the EGR cooler, I just have a £8 plastic joint, which completes the coolant loop. And then I needed some mini fuses as well. £4 worth of mini fuses. There's a bunch of mini fuses in there. £4 just to replace the accessory ones, and something else that was broken after the undersealing, but we'll talk about that in another video. Oil and filter, it's 11.4 litres again, that's £135. Okay, so not a lot going on in the engine bay this year. A couple of £100 just on essential maintenance. One mod, nothing particularly went wrong in the engine bay this year. Next, at the back, a set of brake calipers at the rear, £189 for those. Finally got around to fitting them. I got my windscreen replaced this year. The factory windscreen had a chip in it and it was really quite scratched up after all these years. But for £100 insurance excess, I was able to replace my windscreen. What brand is it? It comes in as a Shatterproof, whoever that is. So it's not a genuine Toyota one. And I need to check because they haven't replaced those little rivets at the side, so I'm bound to get some water ingress. Anyway, that was £100 windscreen excess rather than the thousands it costs to get a fresh one. I had to replace a wing mirror because, you know, a guy in a giant RV thing smashed into my wing mirror, and so this cover thing, I had to swap that out, so that was £90 for a replacement wing mirror, unfortunately. Again, not worth going through the insurance, just get the wing mirror, swap it on. Transmission fluid, or gearbox fluid as we'd call it here in the UK, £77 for that. And because the front bumper had been off last year, I had to get some new jets and the clips that go behind them. The windscreen, or sorry, the headlight washer jets. It was £59 for the jets and some clips. 2 sets of wiper blades this year, £44. Now at the back, I got my rear bumper painted for £400 and they did an absolutely terrible job. In fact, you can maybe see there's like a crease, and there's like a crease on it. So that's not great, just where they did a bad job of sanding it. And then there's some other places where they didn't bother sanding it through. That wasn't great. But I was in a hurry, I needed it done before show, and oh, is that a new scratch? Oh, fantastic, never ends. Glad I got that painted. £400 to get that painted, it probably needs done again. And the last thing at the back here was a set of handbrake shoes while I was getting that caliper done anyway, another £41 for that. There were a few jobs I got done in the interior this year. Please excuse the absolute filth that's in here at the moment. The keys for the Land Cruiser were annihilated. They're known for disintegrating, and I had a fellow put on a fresh key and a remote fob for me. So I've got a couple of these now. Replacing to get an additional set of keys so that I don't have to use the broken Toyota ones, that was £250. And there's a guy does them locally and programs them. I've used him for all my cars really, he does a good job. £250 for a full set of replacement keys. I also did my interior LEDs this year. The standard LEDs here are absolutely tragic. Same with the ones in the roof. Put that on. Much brighter now. £45 for the full set of interior LEDs. There's another one there just up on the attic storage, as we call it. Don't ask me about the wheels, that's year 4. I got a set of tailored floor mats for £27, and as you can see, I've absolutely annihilated them already. They're already burst off there, and they're all curled up on the edges. They have not lasted a year. £27, they'll need replaced again. And here's a little sneaky one for Land Cruiser owners. The nets at the back of your chair, they always sag, and you could just get these little toggles. I put that on for £4, and every time it gets slack, I just nip it up a little more. I've got one on both sides. £4, stops your net sagging. If only all sagging problems could be fixed with £4. Some mods this year, drop links from Trail Tailor. I'll get a better video, but Trail Tailor drop links, they came from America, they were £219, and that restored some of my articulation at the back here, despite having a massive anti-roll bar. £219 for them. The shock spacers for the hydraulic suspension, again, after the hydraulic lift that I've done, I put these spacers on to try and restore some of the comfort. I didn't really notice a difference on there, but it was £180, and it should put the shocks back into a more factory-like position. Mechanical lift rather than pure hydraulic lift through the shocks. I bought a tow ball platform, which I don't think I have a video of, but I've probably got a picture. For camping and road trips, I've got this massive tow ball platform that I can stack stuff onto. That was absolutely brilliant. It took me a while to get a hold of one of them in the UK, and that was £167. I put wheel spacers on because, you know, I'm all about that stance life. My wheel spacers were £128. They were 30mm spacers. I would like to get some narrower ones, because I have a scrub radius problem. Look at that clean patch that's worn on my mudguard. That's because my scrub radius is too high. I need to get to a 20mm spacer instead of a 30mm spacer. If you don't use a spacer when you've got these 35s on, you rub on the upper control arm there. But with the wheel spacers on, you rub on the back of the wheel arch, so I need to get another custom set done. Anyway, that was £128 for those. Panhard rod correction kit from I'm Keith, £126 for that, so that your Panhard rod isn't in a crazy angle anymore. It evens out the Panhard rod so that you don't get bump steer at the rear. Oh, these recovery points. I put in the recovery points again from Trail Tailor. That was 124, the front and back recovery points. I still need to buy bolts, and these shackles were extra. They're part of year 4 costs. Also used a spare inlet heater, £90 for that, so that I could strip down an inlet heater and test and then run it straight instead of having the screen and the ceramic plates in there. £90 for that. Put in these armrests from One Stone, just another place for me to rest my elbow, a little bit more comfort. They were £86. Really, I would rather have one down here. This is where I typically rest my elbow, but this is all that's available, so that helps. That was £84. I also put on some door reinforcement plates. I think they're on the other side here. From Cruiser Patch, I got some door reinforcement plates. There's one. Just stops the car door from getting shredded over time, because those door, well, I guess it's the steel fatigues over time, and that little reinforcement plate helps with it. I also received there a transfer case extension, so the lever extension, I guess. It's about a 40mm extension. That was £32. Just something after the body lift, I decided to get that extended. £32. Also here, Bluetooth transmitter, essential when you're on these old cars. Bluetooth transmitter, it just runs FM radio. It's a terrible solution, and I'll need to find a better one. But for now, £25 for that. Oh, and my dash cam, £45 dash cam, which was helpful to see that guy smash into my wing mount. Last thing's an unusual one. This is called a heat shot. That is a water tank with a heater attached to it. Just connects to the battery and loops into your washer jets. Doesn't heat the washer jets, but it preheats, you know, like 50 millilitres of water, so that when you first turn on the car, it preheats the little chamber, and when you pull your windscreen washers, you get hot water onto your windscreen. Literal hot water. It's steam. That water is hot. A heat shot. They don't make them anymore, and there was some catastrophic lawsuit, which means they can't make them anymore, but that was £52 to get a hold of one of them. And I've actually got a spare. I just buy them whenever I see them, because I like having them on all the cars, because I've never had one go on fire. So now just time for my general costs, fuel insurances and so on. I had a 22 miles per gallon again this year, did 3,500 miles, so I did £982 on my fuel this year in diesel. My insurance was £415. Road tax on this car is now £410 a year. Breakdown insurance, which I forgot to include in previous years, but I have breakdown insurance, it's £110 on top. So my MOT test was a bit more expensive this year. I paid for an express service, and it was a bit more complicated because of the decat pipe, but I paid £100 for that, for an MOT. And I had to replace my TechStream cable for another £49. I've used that TechStream cable a lot with fault codes in the 3 years I've had this car. So I had to replace for another cable, because I lost the other one, and then I paid £49. And then I found it again, so now I have 2 of these TechStream cables. So that's the rest of my costs. So that means this year I have spent £7,158 just keeping it on the road. That's £2,782 on maintenance, £2,459 on repair work, and £1,917 on my costs. That's just keeping it repaired and maintained and keeping it on the road. £7,158. I had mods. I had another £1,331 on modifications to the car. bringing my total to £8,489. Now, if I include those mods, that means that to run this car this year has been £2.45 per mile travelled. And that means that this Land Cruiser, as it sits here today, has cost me a grand total of £36,239 in just 3 years. That's wild. That means that this car is more expensive per month than my Audi RS6 was. I'm spending nearly £1,000. No, I'm spending over £1,000 a month to purchase, maintain, tax, insure this car. Over £1,000 a month. That is bonkers. With that expense, remember, this car had full service history. It had 2 owners, it was well looked after, it was the best that I could get within my budget at the time, and so I thought I had a good one. And I saw some real garbage, believe me, I saw some real trash out there. It's never let me down. It doesn't break down, it smokes and it bangs and it has problems, but it's never broken down. I've never had to get it recovered. I am fixing everything because I want to. Because it's important to me that this car has future reliability when I'm going on a family holiday. Why am I doing so many repairs? Yes, I am replacing more than I have to. I don't want a failure when I'm out on the road, out with the family. This car's got tons of space, and that's been really important for us with the family and the dog and now 2 children. The alternative for us would be to go back to having a camper van. I had a camper van before, but it was gutless and slow and just... It might as well have been a works van. It had no theatre, it had no drama to it whatsoever. So I know this is expensive, but this is a great alternative for us rather than getting a camper van. A camper van was even slower than this was. 0 to 60 was 24 seconds. And I think this is maybe like 14, 15 seconds, something like that, if you really put the hammer down. The camper van was dull, uncomfortable, slow and unreliable. This is slow and unreliable, but at least it's comfortable and spacious. And I now only have 18 years to go before it's tax exempt. And we're not done, because I'm going to need possibly a turbo, possibly valve seals, a rear diff lock actuator at best. It might be the whole rear diff. There's a problem with the rear anti-roll bar. There's problems with the boost pressure sensor and the mass airflow sensor. There's an oil leak on the other side of the engine there, which might be diesel, it might be oil, I'm not sure. The new headlights that I put in like last year, the new corner lamps, they're like loose, they're broken already. So that was, you know, £25 well spent, or £20, whatever that was. So the car continues to be expensive, it continues to be a money pit. I don't think it's a financial mistake, because I love this car and it's better than having a camper van. But yeah, it's not for everyone. It's going to be thirsty. It's going to be expensive. I like it. It's probably not for you though. For £1,000 a month, what else could you have? You could have brand new Range Rovers on leases and so on. You could, I think the modern culture now would be just to just lease or loan a car. This thing's mine. This is bought and paid for and modified, and it's something a bit special. Or at least I think it's something special. I hope, please, I hope this calms down soon. Because this is a phenomenal amount of money to spend running a car. £1,000 a month. Right, anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to go and console myself with some whiskey, I think. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for all the support on these videos. I do hope everyone is able to stay safe, make good decisions if you can, and I will see you in another video very soon. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for watching. If you're not subscribed, please do. Videos like this every couple of weeks. Pretty much always Land Cruiser content. So if you're not subscribed, please do hit the button down below and hit like if you've enjoyed the video. Thank you very much.